Greetings to you all, and I do welcome you to this broadcast. Thank you for tuning in. As always, it's a pleasure to be able to interact with those who are given to sound reasoning and who have a genuine interest in matters that pertain to our well-being as a people. Guyana is a very interesting nation, as many would be, in that we we exist in within a shifting of cultures, and I've learned that in order to survive and to really thrive in these environments, one must be willing and prepared to make necessary adjustments. In some instances, step away from that which has become normal and do that which is at times strange when it applies to the opinion of others. What I'm confident in is the fact that those who possess the ability to rationalize and to critically analyze situations, those individuals give me significant hope. Forward Guyana movement is a pioneering entity. I am tempted to even classify it as an ideology that's become new, in that we are unafraid to confront things in a manner that is a little bit beyond the fence of what has become normal for politics in our nation. And at the same time, we are also cognizant of the importance of conducting ourselves in a manner that breeds respect and significant value from those who understand how one ought to conduct him or herself. As you tune in this evening, please indicate to me whether you hear me clearly, or tonight I should say, and you see me clearly. And because the topic that we're discussing, mm, VPAC release recordings, and the decision has been made, this I know, or I should say I can speak um, for those who are part of Fort Ghana movement. This is essentially a dive into the deep blue sea, and one in which I believe, or I hope, and I can hopefully say that I can speak on behalf of the leader for Ghana movement. Well, obviously, she's able to speak for herself. Um, but this would be an example of how quickly we ought to address certain matters and how quickly we ought to as well regain focus, but was not necessarily lost, but to redirect our attention solely to that which really matters. A part of being able to lead a nation, as Ford Ghana movement would have been involved in that cycle of elections to potentially lead Guyana, in the bid to convince others or to encourage others to vote for Ford Ghana movement and to become a part, your voice must be lent to this mission, this movement. A part of it would have had to do with how we handle conflicts, how we handle differences of views, how we handle challenges. And I would normally say to principals or one of those and others that we have to think about running a nation, governing the affairs of a nation. Because you shouldn't enter into an election period thinking that you lose, although it's not a competition. You should enter thinking that you may be given the responsibility to govern, which has actually happened. Because Forward Ghana movement has been given the responsibility to be a part of governance, of governing the nation. contrary to what people may think or Bart and others may want to present. But when you are in the opposition, you are constitutionally recognized as a part of the government of the country. Truth is that there are those, everyone, including our dear sister Manza and leader for Ghana movement, who now have the responsibility to legislate, which is to make laws, responsibility to ensure that matters like spending budgets are discussed, debated upon, and in some instances challenged. So there's not some light responsibility we have. So with that said, I just wanted to introduce you, hopefully have you think tonight along the line of understanding what's at stake in governing our country. There are very significant matters to be addressed in our nation, but it is important for us to pause to speak to this and move on. And I like saying move forward as quickly and purposefully as possible. So with that said, allow me to add to this broadcast to the stage the leader of Ford Ghana movement. Welcome. You're muted. And while you tap on the screen, let me say that I'm extending congratulations to you for being honored by your alma mater, President's College.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
yes,
Thank
I want to say welcome because this is home for you. We're at home here.
you.
But
Yes.
we yes, let us have this conversation. Um, how have you been? And
I've been okay. I've been okay. I am okay now. I've had a tough few days. A lot of people uh saw the swearing in of parliament, but didn't know that on that day I was struggling with the loss of one of my mentees. She passed, Miss Latifah Ward, somebody that was very dear and close to me. Young woman, vibrant woman, a gem, somebody that I mentored and nurtured. And it hit me, I will admit. And so the human in you needs time to grapple with certain things and to really steady and stabilize yourself. So I've in addition to attending the gala for the honor that I received from my alma mater. So just so humbled by that, man. I mean, it was quite a humbling experience. Taking a moment to just breathe and recuperate from that blow. It really struck me. And so here I am, but I'm good by God's grace. I'm all right. I'm all right. I
well,
thank.
I'm glad that you are. You've been um graced with the ability to function so well in different circumstances, and that is what leadership is about. And here's another matter that you're about to discuss that may not be celebratory in nature for some,
Mhm.
but for me, it because I may be different, as to say, it's a moment where Guyanese have an opportunity to see how this new movement, this
Mhm.
this baby, as they would call us at times, how we
Mhm.
handle situations of this nature,
Mhm.
which would in the next few years, I believe, cause others to know that we are about the people's business. And we're not just about the people's business where we function under any and every circumstance,
Mhm.
meaning that
Mhm.
people can are free to do whatever they want and it just goes on. We're saying that there must be propriety, there must be order, there must be decency, and there must be very clear cut codes of conduct as to how we're going to operate as Forward Ghana movement. And I don't think there would have been anyone better to speak with than you, the leader of the same. So just for those who are viewing here, Manza, the, there's been an ongoing um, difference, I would call it.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge that I would face and others are facing is trying to understand where it's coming from. Because some things to some people appear to be very simple, while to others it's made very complicated. And
Yeah.
this is where life becomes interesting.
Yeah.
Because to some of us it's a very clear cut situation, while to others it warrants days and weeks and months of analyses and attacks and so on. But here's my point before you speak to this. I
Mm-hmm.
continue to have a very serious position as a man,
Mm-hmm.
and that is that no one is going to attack and consistently hurl missiles of ill intent to any female with whom I associate. I don't tolerate that. I'm extremely serious where this concerned, especially if the motive is nonsensical. I'm trying to be as nice as possible tonight because of how um, professional you always appear to be when I'm with you. So I have to conduct myself well. But 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 no, it's not okay to do that. It is not okay to consistently. And I've seen a barrage of attacks, and I know that you've walked this road so many times. You've been here and you've done it.
Yeah.
But I do not subscribe to it coming from within the walls of a house.
Well, Nigel, I am not the strongest of Christians, I'll admit that. But you're often warned that a man's enemies are those in his own house. It says that somewhere in the good book. So these things happen, and I, as you've rightly said, I'm generally not phased by these issues. I will tell you that it pains me to have to take time out to correct misinformation and so on. I will contextualize and preface the entire discussion by saying, I'm not going to be discussing this after tonight.
Very important.
This is the first. I think this is probably the second time I've addressed this matter at all publicly, and I don't intend to do that after tonight. There's too much work to be done. And people must understand that I am very, very good and I'm fine with being the villain in somebody's book. I will be judged by the good Lord. So you know, if I
Yeah.
said it before, you're not going to bully me. You're not going to pressure me. You're not going to use public opinion. You say, listen to me, this is a free word. You say what you want. And I'll preface it by saying people will believe what they want to believe. That's not something you can control. There will always be people who are for you, there will always be people who are against you. And when you make peace with that as a leader, you allow your work to speak for you. You allow your commitment and dedication to the people to speak for you. I am speaking tonight only out of respect for the people that cast their votes for Forward Guyana movement. That's the only reason I'm coming on here to address anything that has to do with this. So I wanted to be made pellucid. I also want to preface it by saying this. Listen, you record, you leak, you post whatever you want. And since you want to make me out to be this B word, I'm fine being that. And so the position will remain as it is because you do not bully. And I detest misinformation and I detest people who stir up controversy just for attention and likes and clicks. There's serious work to be done. And like I said, my only reason for coming on here tonight is because people voted, and out of respect for those voters, we will address this matter. After today, I want it to be made pellucid. You say what you want, post what you want, you do what you want. I will not be speaking on this matter again because um and I don't plan to take more than 30 minutes of my time to deal with this foolishness, Nigel, because this is what it is. It is foolishness. You have you have a lot of work to be done. You have a lot of work to be done. And so, y- you know, you to have to waste time on this is
Right, right.
I think I've made the point. I've made the point.
Yeah. But let's begin with what I would like a rational thinker to not insult, because people who rationalize things well feel insulted when you ask certain questions because it doesn't make any sense, but ask it nonetheless.
Right,
You happen to be the presidential candidate
right,
of Ford Guyana movement.
right.
So let's just say that the 200, 300,000 people who included their maps or Vishnu would have voted for Ford Guyana movement. You would have been the president of Guyana today. Am I to believe that for the next 5 years, you are supposed to rotate the presidency?
Nigel, look, I honestly, bro, I think you're complicating this thing a little.
See, exactly. Now
This,
we have to stand at the pinnacle here.
this is a matter. Look, we had an agreement between the three parties that came together to form the Forward Guyana movement that we would put forward a single slate. That slate, and I'm synopsizing here, I'm making it
Yes.
condensed in the interest of time. That slate was put forward. The head of that slate was Amanda Walton Desir. The deputy leader of that slate was Nigel London. The agreement for the coalition came to an end on the 2nd of September 2020. That agreement having ended, the three principles of Forward Guyana, the People's Movement, and the Forward Guyana and VPAC said, you know what, we want to continue this. There are some matters that we need to address. That is, do we share the seat? What does that rotation look like? Because you will recall that we were saying, look, what we need to do is build capacity in the movement.
Right.
I said to them, listen, I'm going to have to anchor this because I would be the person with the most experience. Well, when it became clear what was happening, it reinforced
Hmm.
even further the decision that we took.
Right.
So, and we will have discussions as to how it could be rotated. Recall that you said, okay, we're going to meet. You came down from Linden, you set up a meeting. VPAC never showed up to the meeting. That's the first meeting. Recall as well that pending us saying we were going to meet, we started getting correspondence from VPAC about a number of issues. I mean, you addressed this so clearly in prior broadcasts. It pains me to have to go back over it. But the long
Necessary.
story short is that you said, look, I thought we were going to meet. What is this writing about? He said, okay, they requested a meeting. We agreed. They didn't show up for that meeting. So you have concerns, but you don't show up to the meeting to address those concerns. We had our campaign closeout meeting. They were invited to come to the meeting. We made space on the agenda to address all of their concerns. 10 minutes before the meeting, they called and said they're not coming to the meeting. And then people tried to bully me. So, okay, everybody knows who has been following that this went on for some time. So we took a decision. Look, we're going to mediate this because we believe that mature adults handle matters in a certain way. So a mediator that they agreed to was brought in. Legal counsel was brought in. I mean, this is the way we operate in these parts. I don't know about the other people, but I can talk about how we operate.
Yes.
We had a mediator, we had legal counsel who came, who minuted the meetings, made sure that the Roberts Rules of Procedures, etc., were followed, and all of these things. We had one such mediative meeting. It went for about 4 to 5 hours. You came from Linden. I think
Yeah.
we ended like about close to midnight that night, and then you
Midnight.
back up
That's right.
to Linden.
Yeah.
That was the Wednesday. We said, okay, we have to adjourn now. and we adjourned to the Friday. But before we adjourned, the mediator set out what the agenda was.
Before you proceed, let me just, because this is important here.
Mm-hmm,
Because on that Wednesday night, if, Francis, who's Francis Michael Bailey on Facebook, was
mm-hmm,
complaining, saying, listen, you saying all these things, but you're not addressing the content of what we're saying, which wasn't the case, but he said that. And
mm-hmm.
these are all recorded, by the way. And it should be noted that I said that the only condition under which I'll meet with Francis Bailey and VPAC Darwin Best is if it was recorded. If we agree to that, I'll come to Georgetown and talk
I
because
think
I know what would have happened.
we had both video and audio recordings of the
Both
meeting.
video and audio recordings. And
Mm-hmm,
I said also you must be in possession of the same. So don't just record it, but everybody must possess it. So
mm-hmm,
whenever the moment arises, we could release the same if it's so required. And I expect that there'll be a release from the mediator to say that, okay, what transpired. But here's the important point that don't want people to miss. When VPAC would have been alleging that we are not addressing the contents of their missives and their complaints and their gripes, I said the mediator was saying, let's meet something next week. Or I said, no. I'll come back on Friday
yes,
because this has to be
yes.
addressed.
We
And
didn't
I said,
want
I'll dedicate,
there
right.
was too much
There
of a
you go.
gap because
Right.
a
And
lot.
we'll dedicate all of our time. We'll dedicate our time on Friday to addressing every single point that VPAC had an issue with. I think that's important for us to say, to make known,
And
please.
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And this is where that detail becomes important because here you are saying that you have grouses, and here are two of the three principals availing themselves of every opportunity to meet with you, getting a mediator, getting legal counsel involved to be able to resolve it, right? Because people voted for us, and so it is important that these matters be addressed and be addressed in house. So we said, okay, Nigel agreed to come back on Friday. I am close to the city, so is Mr. Best. It's always a function of, okay, Nigel getting down the highway, and that ain't easy. So he volunteered to come, as he said, on Friday. So the agenda was all of the correspondence we will go through one by one and address with a view to resolve. We arrive at Friday. 30 minutes into the meeting, VPAC said they're not interested in the agenda. They want to know one thing. Is Amanza going to give up the headed list or not? And Francis Bailey says to me, it's a yes or no question. Well,
Right.
anybody who know me know that you, what? What?
Yeah.
I said certainly there will not be any yes or no answer to that question. And what is this about? I thought that we had an agenda set out of all of your concerns. We are here prepared to address every single one of them. Feedback got up and walked into the meeting. And that is the last time, this is weeks ago, that I've spoken
Mm.
to or said a word about these two gentlemen.
Same here.
So this is very concerning to me that all of a sudden a matter that seems to I noted that they went about doing their own advocacy work, etc. So I know that they left the meeting. They left you and I sitting there with the mediator. The mediator said, gentlemen, we agreed to this. Are you all sure? He begged them. He said, man, y'all don't do this. People are they got up and they walked out. Left you and I at the table with the mediator. And now up in the social media streets, acting hurt. Like if somebody, what? Listen,
Yeah.
I'm a very patient person, but my patience is run out. And this is foolishness. We have important work to do. If you want attention, go somewhere else to get it. You will not get it from here. You're not going to get it from here. We got people in our country planting bombs. We got people who can't eat. Do you think I have time for you to whine and cry about the parliamentary seat? There is one seat, and one person at a time can occupy it. And you're running around telling people that you were robbed. Robbed of what? You did not come to the meeting for us to sit down to discuss how we will rotate the seat. So what were you robbed of? So I don't have time for foolishness. Nigel. I do not have time for foolishness.
But you shouldn't have time for it in that when we consider this parliamentary cycle, as I call it, the 13 parliaments, and 13 is a very important number,
Yeah,
spiritually speaking.
yeah.
And it's begun to manifest itself already. So the madness has started to some extent. And here you are sitting here being again a voice of stability, having to deal with this kind of behavior. And here's what's important. In the first meeting we had, because there's certain things tonight when I get through this, I promise you, my sister, I'm not coming back to this, and I'm happy you said it because I do not have the mental capacity to do what these men are doing. I cannot do it. I find myself in a difficult position now doing what I have to do because there's so many things happening, and even in London, we have no regional chairman in Region 10. Like people don't
Absolutely.
understand, VPAC don't understand what's happening here. There
Yeah.
are 10 admin regions. Region 10 happens to be the most important reference to geography. That's what you call the heart of the nation. We have no regional chairman. We have no vice chairman. And Priya and others just sauntering along. VPAC doesn't see it as a problem, apparently. But we'll get to that in a minute. But here's my thing. In the first meeting, when I would have been asked about whether or how I feel about Francis, since Darwin is a dual citizen, how I felt about Francis going to Parliament, I'll say tonight. I said Francis cannot represent me, and I say the same thing today. Francis Bailey could never represent me because one, men don't do certain things. Any man who would look at a woman, which you happen to be, and say, well, listen, you have a problem? I'll tell people what you told me in private, according to what he's saying, that he must ease you out, he must help you to ease out the PNC and all that. I said it, any man who does that, it's recorded. You can't lead me anywhere, not even to a chicken coop. Men don't do that. How can you? I said, how could you go to parliament if you can't be trusted with a basic form of confidentiality? See, if you're Maduro going to bomb somebody and Jagger get you vexed, you're going to tell people, I'm going to tell people what you said last. Said, how can you leave me if
It's
you can't keep your mouth shut?
no, but you see, look, the reality is that leadership requires a certain temperament. And um the sad reality is that when you release tapes and you release unprompted, because who said something to any one of them?
Right.
It's like, if you look at this thing, you almost feel as if it's being orchestrated by agents provocateurs.
Good term.
Because suddenly, from nowhere, what? And so it like I said, it pains me to have to address this, but out of respect for the people who voted for the movement, I think it has to be done. It's about leadership and temperament, Nigel, because if you can't have your own way and you will throw tantrums, then who is going to trust you? In or out of leadership, you have a propensity to release vice notes and to do this unprompted or not in refutation of anything, because I have not said anything about Darwin Bess or Francis Michael Bailey, right? So you just release it what you want attention, you want to besmirch me or something. I mean, listen to me. You go right ahead. The reality is that my work speaks for itself, and I don't pretend to be something that I'm not. What I say, I mean, and what I mean, what I say, and with me, what you see is what you get. So so it is difficult for me to explain how much I do not care about their views on this matter. Now,
No.
back to the serious part of it. When you do things like that, it is sad that you don't even recognize that you're hurting your own self, because who's going to trust you? Who's going to
There
trust
you go. There you go.
who? So, and then certain things don't make sense. People who know me know if I want to leave a place, I will leave a place. I don't need you to help me to leave a place. Everybody knows I left the PNC. You don't think that there has been so many um, reporters and people who want the scoop and who, you know, on Aubrey and you. I have nothing to say on the matter.
Look at your conduct. Look at your
I have
conduct.
nothing to say on the matter. You could suppose what you want, because for me, leadership is important. Temperance is important. And if Guyanese need steady, sober leadership, not because you can't have your way, you broke up the whole baby party, and it is juvenile and it is sad because, to my mind, Francis has one of the best creative minds I've come across. And I have no
Yeah.
bones about saying it. And so to see him destroy his credibility in this manner is sad for me because I think he is a creative genius.
Musician like me, which is why I
He-
said that I
Absolutely.
love musicians who can create because it's a world in which a space in which we
It is a
function
space.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so to see him go on this rampage and in thinking that he is somehow hurting me, hurting his own credibility, and having people view him in a certain way is sad for me because the guy has a creative genius that you it's rare. And so I don't know who is egging him on. I don't know who is in the background stirring the pot, but you're a big man, you're responsible for what you say, right? So if people can influence you to do foolishness, then another reason why you have no business being in in leadership. So I
Yeah, because I know as
yeah,
Ali said, we don't want to be belabor
I don't want to be
belabel
labeled. I don't want to
belabel.
be labeled the point.
Listen, Irfan is a general boy. But listen, it's important to know that in that said meeting, because what was said, since we want to release stuff, let's release stuff here. I, Amanza, sat in your presence, in the presence of Darwin and a mediator plus a legal mind, and I said to Francis, tell me one thing, please. Have I ever had a discussion with you or in your presence about any rotation of any seat arrangement? What did Francis say? No. Let the world hear this because
Yeah,
this has been recorded.
yeah,
I said, how could you be calling me that I'm this corrupt preacher? I'm deceptive and all the rest of it. And now we're man to man in a room. And I said to you, listen to me, answer me straight, please. For the record, have I ever had a conversation with you before FGM, after election, at any point in time they ever talked to you, Francis,
yeah.
in any circle about any seat rotation? Francis said, no, I never spoke to him. You know what he said? I got it from Darwin. How can you be a grown man thinking about leading a country, going to parliament, and
Uh,
don't understand that you don't work with second and third hand information in certain matters? This
yeah.
is, you want to talk about whether we sell Pilori or Barrow or Eggball?
But for me, Nigel, and like I said, I am addressing this once because it's out there. Um, it is never a good thing for people to have to experience, what they may see as leaders fighting amongst themselves. But
Yeah,
I am I am convinced we did what we could. We got in a mediator, we agreed to meetings. You can bring horse to the water, but you can't make it drink, right? So it is what it is. You can't cry over that fact. Um I think for me, and like I've said this openly, I do not have, or I did not have, any issue with redundancy. In fact, we called for it. We recognize that, look, our best way to build capacity would be to do this,
yeah,
right? To make sure, like I believe I said on one call, I've been to parliament before, right? It is not a
mhm,
big thing for me. So what we
right.
will do, I will lead off. People will shadow me. Means you come into parliament when I in parliament. When it's the budget, you got to sit down and go through. And you recall we started putting in place even the committee and the
Correct.
resource people to help us, who would do it finance, who would do it health, to go through the budget. And we started arranging, okay, by January, the sessions are going to start. So all of these are things that have been happening. But you got to know what's up. And it would be irresponsible of me as the leader of a ticket and as the leader of a slate to see that there are two novices, for want of a better
Mm.
word, it's not meant to be denigrated, but two people who are
Right.
new, leading the APNU delegation, and me being the only experience of the tree, not go forward. And for anybody to suggest that that is what I should do, I would consider them rude. I would consider them sexist because why I'm a woman. And I would consider them irresponsible. And so for me, that is where my mindset is, which is why I was very slow to address this. Because anybody in Forward Guyana who would have heard me speak, they know my disposition.
Yeah.
But now is a time that requires experience, temperate, sober leadership. You got wind fighting up now. You got all of this going on. And people, what are we in the age of flinging up receipts? You and somebody
That's right.
chat and you throw it up on the internet. What is
Come
that?
on. Come
What
on.
is that?
How do people trust you when you act in that manner? I mean,
This is
across, there's not
right.
here across the board. How do we do this?
Across the board, across the board, you see this nonsense, and it is debilitating, and it is discouraging for people who are living under the weight of a PPP dictatorship. It is discouraging for them. And so um you know again, it is about temperament. It is about um it is about you know just a disposition. It's one seat. It's one person could sit in it at a time. This is not a case where you got three seats and then you're denying somebody. It is one. So what? And this is what the matter is so obvious to me and to right thinking people. Nigel, this is why I wonder, who are the agent provocateurs in the back?
Yeah. Somebody has to be behind
The
this
agents
because,
provocateur in
yeah,
the back, stirring this, because it makes no sense. Because, okay, what is your end game here? Your end game is to embarrass me. You can't embarrass me.
neither me,
you know, I
no
don't care
soft.
what your view is of me. I know who I am. The people that I work for appreciate the work that I do, and they repose that confidence in me. What are you hoping to do? What are you hoping to do exactly? So, what is the end game here? This matter went away, and then suddenly it's now back in the fore. What is your end game here? When you walked out of the mediation,
And refuse to attend 4 other meetings. So I
refused
don't
to
know. I
attend
don't know
the
what
meeting.
you know what's crazy? The voice notes that were I don't call them leaked because to leak it is one thing. All right. So this was thrown in the air. Um, it's saying here, listen, we need to have discussions and an agreement signed so we can know what we're doing. How could you leak that? How could you throw it out there? How could you burst the whole water tank then? And forget, hey, I should edit this part. Because if I were doing that, I'd edit that part out. There's nobody in this world, Francis, that make me release that where I am saying, Nigel is saying, hey, that's why we should have a meeting and we should iron out this agreement to have things inked. How would you put it out there and say this and Manson and I bad? When we agreeing that we should have this?
Important to note that nobody had an aversion to meeting and having things
No
in
one.
writing, because this is what you do. You enter into agreements, you reduce them into writing, and you put, dispute resolution mechanisms in them in the case of it. And so
Oh
Nigel is
my
now
God.
is now I think we've spent more than 30 minutes on this, and
We
I
have.
I plan to that's it. VPAC, you can
No.
leak, put out,
I,
write,
I know you well enough,
post, wherever you want.
but
Do
I
you
know
do,
you well enough.
do your best, because
Yeah, but it's important for us to not avoid addressing certain matters because it shouldn't be said, hey, they had a chance to talk, but now they jumped away from this, they ran away from this. No. So I'm going to be pained. I'll crave your indulgence, but
mm-hmm,
it's critical for us to not bypass certain things before I get to where I believe as the leader of the people's movement, I am
mm-hmm,
given instructions by the people's movement.
mm-hmm,
because conduct matters. And I think you spoke to that earlier. Conduct matters. How you present yourself as a leader matters. We're not leading people who just like to be on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and they just lay in their bed and just, oh, I like this. That is not how you run a country. There's certain things and protocols that are necessary. More so, remember, you can potentially have to interact with other foreign leaders.
Yes.
This
Hmm.
is important. What if somebody calls and say, listen, MP Bailey, Francis were in the House Assembly, Darwin. Well, Darwin couldn't go, but Francis, listen,
1 second. Why
the
couldn't
10th,
he go? Why couldn't
Darwin
he
was a
go?
he's a
Okay,
dual citizen.
continue on now because I think that point is
Dual,
lost on a lot of people.
exactly. He was a dual citizen. Okay. Secondly, now they discussed about the deputy leader. They released the part where you said, well, Francis could be. Now, I love language, and I'm known for being hated because I love language. Language means everything to me. You said he could be, but here's the trouble. I remember, I remember a long night on this campaign trail when the time had come for us to submit a list to GCOM. Then Francis, I remember Francis said, listen, I can't be the deputy because I can't find my ID card. Now that was it for me. Honestly, that was one of the moments I said, listen here, this for me is borderline insanity. Because how do we go to where it's a few hours that are left to submit to GCOM for nomination day? A list of candidates. And the one who you suggested that he could be the deputy. He said, no, maybe you could find someone else because I can't find my ID card. Hence, I cannot be a candidate because he asked if he could use his passport. I don't forget these things. And I don't forget what you did in order to help him to know what his ID number was. And that's as much as I'll say. So if you wanted to shut VPAC out, you could have simply said, well, okay, then go on. Because they didn't, it's not a case where they had 25 candidates or five for the geographic list. So it was easy to say, well, we could shut them out. You went to the extent, being who you are, to find a way to get this young man's ID information from GCOM because he said he can't find it, and hence he cannot even be a part of it.
Remember the address, etc. Yeah.
And he was registered in Region 4, I think.
Hmm.
All that. And thought he could have worked run in Region 3. So you did all of that to demonstrate the quality of person you are. And because of time, we had to rush to ensure that we met the requirement for nomination day. I thought that the celebration that I saw on nomination day would have been genuine and hopefully a breath of fresh air. But as you said, there may be agents provocateurs, those who are planted somewhere, who are behind this. Say, listen, let's cause some chaos because we see the quality in for Guyana movement. Hence, we have to get this ship off key, off course. Not here. So let me say please, because you lead the Fort Guyana movement, so I can speak to the people's movement.
Hmm.
We've always taken a position. Always. We have a national executive council, but 15 members, and we've taken a position given our legal counsel and everything else that we have, that we would never be a political movement or a people's movement engaged in destructive conduct. Never. We had a general secretary who conducted himself in a manner that was unacceptable to us based on the standards of the people's movement. He at one time wrote a piece that was attacking you while we were coalescing. And I said, you don't do that. You can never attack someone with whom I share a relationship in reference to a political circle. I don't care how you feel about the person.
Yeah.
He also then expressed his support for another party's leader, while being general secretary of the People's Movement, and he was immediately removed. When the council met, they, and it was troubling to know that I was the one seeking, as they call in church, grace. Say, okay, VPAC is a partner. Well, let's see how we can work. We have some meetings. We'll talk. But when they saw the consistent and they're seeing the consistent and continued attack against you, and please note, Francis Bailey continues to attack me as a preacher. He knows, because he's not a stupid boy. He knows what pertains when you attack members of the clergy at his call. He knows why he says certain things he does. So this crooked pastor, this wicked pastor, this corrupt pastor, and these things. I've never spoken about a bee, a wing, a thorax, or abdomen. I said nothing about Francis's profession, but he can attack mine. And to this day, I've said nothing about oil, kerosene, lighter fuel. Apart from this, Barrett maybe should give Darwin a license to import lighter fuel, because we have to work for something if you just come out of the blue and start attacking people like this. But when they saw the aggression, and most importantly, when they discovered that partners of a coalition of which the People's Movement is a part, when you prepared to release what they call these recordings and stuff like that, they've taken a decision that the People's Movement will not, and a document will follow this, but I want to announce this to all, media and everybody. The People's Movement shall have no political or other interaction with VPAC, because their conduct is unbecoming and it does not mirror the nature and the spirit of the People's Movement. No one considers that they're operating in good faith, but they're seeking to destroy the character of the leaders. They're seeking to destroy the integrity of the movement, and by extension, seeking to establish themselves as being the only honest people when they couldn't attend meetings to speak to what was upright and address matters that they have a challenge with. So let it be known, please, that for the People's Movement, we have nothing to do with VPAC, and there's no coalition or part with VPAC, because it ended on the 2nd of September. We're supposed to proceed in discussions, and thankfully, discussions were not had. Hence, we have no relationship with them hereafter. None.
I think it is important that that be understood very, very clearly, because for us in the Forward Guyana movement, our executive um, made it abundantly clear that after witnessing the conduct, they were not comfortable with moving forward with negotiations for the new coalition for the next 5 years, because of course we were having discussions about local government and how do we proceed with those. And so the position for Forward Guyana is the identical position. The agreement ended, and so we are not going to be renewing it. I have a problem with leadership that doesn't understand that you require temperance to be leaders. You require a degree of wisdom and forbearance. And if it is a case where you believe that at any small offense or you don't agree with something, you go and you'll expose everybody. And look, a lot of the attacks have been leveled against me,
You,
and
yes,
and
I've taken
and,
note.
and I think what has happened has really vindicated the decision that I took, that you're not going to be involved in any of this anymore, because you do not exhibit the traits required for leadership. Listen to me. Leading people is not show. It's not about likes and clicks. That's not what it's about. It requires the ability. And Nigel, for me, I did not say anything about this because sometimes to protect the integrity, you've got to take one and two hits, and you've got to be quiet.
Yes.
I remember when I was labeled a husband beater. They had when anybody who knows my ex-husband know that there ain't no way, shape, or form
Oh,
that
come
I'm
on.
beating that giant of a man. So
That
it is
giant.
ridiculous. What I refuse to engage in public conduct, because that is the father of my children. And so I'm not going to put them in a situation that embarrassed. So I took the hit. For years, all manner and sort of foolishness have been said, because they're just sometimes, and that's what leaders do. You take tough decisions, and you got to take the hit and live with the consequences of it. But um going forward and moving forward, this will there will be no further collaboration. I think um, lines, too many lines have been crossed, and I think because we have been quiet, I think because we have been so focused on the people's business and looking at the issues of our national security and really advocating in that space for a joint approach to um, our national security, because we've been on the ground talking about raising
Yes.
awareness and all of these things, that we did not pay attention to this. But after this, it's done. It is done. And I think people who are looking on will say, okay, Amanza did the right thing, because clearly this is not a temperament that could be trusted with leadership. Because dictatorship dictatorship is leadership without virtue, without restraint, without
Yes.
um, empathy. And if you're not faithful in the small things, you cannot be faithful in the big things. And so for me, Nigel, I truly regret the discomfort that I truly regret the discomfort that this entire episode has caused the people who voted for us. But I will say, and like I said before, some costs are better paid up front.
I agree.
And so you thank God for the understanding. People will always people, life will always life. Forward Guyana movement, we will move forward. We're gonna be stronger than ever. And I believe that I think people are concerned because we appear to be a stabilizing voice
Yes.
in the parliament and in the public, and that, we've not been afraid to take on the big challenges. Nobody else has stepped up to do nobody else has stepped up to do an elections petition. We brought a court case to make sure that the law is properly tested. We were slapped with costs, and we're doing like the actual work. We ain't
Yes.
sitting down and pontificating on Facebook. We're putting ourselves out there. We're putting ourselves on the line to make sure that the system is fixed. Because Nigel, I will say this, and it might sound counterintuitive, but people who will hear will understand. It don't matter how much groundwork you do,
Hmm.
At this point, the way GCOM has rigged our political, the way the government,
Yes.
the PPP has rigged our political system, they've captured GCOM. They've put in place electoral laws that are flawed.
Yeah.
And whilst I note that APNU has put forward a motion for biometrics, that will not solve the problem,
Doesn't solve the problem.
because all
No.
biometrics does is say I am who I say I am.
Right.
Problem is that it is rigged from the data entry point.
That's correct.
That is the issuance of Guyanese citizenship. It is rigged
Hmm.
from there. And so it is a question of the entire legal framework. And so, because you see, what you can do is that you can engineer consent if you capture the electoral system.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And this is
Yeah.
why this fight that we are fighting is important, which is why I can't deal with foolishness like this. Because understand, you could walk every nook, every cranny, every village. And as long as the electoral laws have been captured, as long as the PPP is able to manufacture citizens, all biometrics will do is confirm that that is the citizen. It does
That's
not
it.
pick up a fake birth certificate. So Jao from Brazil, who is not entitled to Guyanese citizenship, but who, through the loophole in the Registration of Births and Deaths Act, could get Guyanese citizenship because a Toshao could sign or a JP could sign.
Yes.
Jao's fingerprint is Jao's fingerprint. The problem is not somebody pretending to be Jao. That is Jao. The problem is that Jao ought not to be voting.
This is some serious business here.
Some serious business. And so When you understand where we are, and you started off this program by saying something very, very important, that Guyana is caught in the middle of a culture change, right? We are a small backwater country called the third world. We are now no longer on any of the indices are we categorized as a poor country. It therefore means that we can't be poor in our thinking anymore. Because you can't
Correct.
a first world country with a third world mindset. And so we're caught at the crossroads of, of, of a shift in our culture, right? Where the old is battling against the new, where, oh, this is how we have always done it, is battling against this is how it ought to be done. So there's work to do.
Which makes sense in reference to your being the one who would have led for Ghana movement in Parliament. And I think these are things that were said in discussions. Listen, we have a geopolitical crisis. We have a political crisis in our country. We have a foreign relationship issue, foreign relations issue. So the best person to stand there to speak to this is one who's been a shadow minister for all these
And
years.
it's not like
And that's you. This is
it's not
basic
like
common
you don't
sense.
have a voice, and then to see to see foolish statements like you want a duty free, when in the last parliament I was entitled to two but never took one. I might just take
You
one now
should.
just for good measure.
Well, say, no, for me, yeah, you should take, because listen,
I might just take
the
one
list
for
of
good measure.
charges brought against you at some point, like when I was a bad boy, I wasn't bad, I was kind. I tell people that, listen to me. If you accuse me all the time, at some point, all right, then fine. Let's go with, because I'm being nice all along. So if you say that a man's in the parliament for duty free concession, then take it. Because you're right to do it anyway. Maybe you
Because
should.
to hear that level of foolishness, and
My
you
goodness, man.
happy to drive around in the car that you've had for the last 8 or 9 years, because okay, it's a good SUV. I don't need a new. And you hear this level of bilge, it could get irritating, but I have issues to deal with. And the point is that it's a serious time that requires serious people. If we're going to move Guyana forward, we cannot do things the way they've always been done. And I see a lot of people have a lot to talk about, oh, the opposition and splitting the votes, etc. One of the things that we are moving away from is having opposition people who believe that they could do nothing to represent people and then scare people into voting a certain way. It will not work. The world is moving away from that model of leadership. And whether we like it or not, shared governance is going to have to be a feature of the future, and is me or them. You know what demonstrates this so powerfully? And I just got a text from somebody saying that the broadcast has gotten choppy. Could we get some feedback as to whether it is improving or if it's still choppy?
Give us some feedback, please. What if I switch my network? Was is it good, viewers? Better? Okay, this is good. Hold on. Still, somebody says it's good enough. Others say it's breaking up. All right. Somebody says they may be reporting a broadcast. Let's go with what we can. Let me see if I can switch the network. Give me a second. We should be fine. It's improved. Okay, good.
All right. Well, we will take it from there. I think I was making the point that what demonstrates this in the first place is this ongoing debate with the presidential scholarship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to read, I posted today, look, your fan just get two
How difficult
scholarships.
is
We
that?
could afford it. Just get two scholarships. The boy Priya came out even in defense of his hairstyle. He was the
Hmm.
hottest thing out. The young lady
Yeah.
absolutely deserves her accolades. Like, we have to begin to embrace the mindset of win-win.
Why not the five?
We got a win-lose mentality and
Exactly.
never look for how do we create win-win situations. I see people saying, "Oh, it's gonna be unfair to the girl." How?
How?
How is it going to be unfair to her? She gets to pursue her scholarship as she's entitled to because she worked for it, and the young man also gets to pursue his scholarship because he worked so tirelessly. 26 subjects, 26 subjects. Huh? But to have the mindset that if you gain, I lose is something that we're going to have to revise as a nation. Because what
I
does
like
it
that.
profit me if my neighbor goes without? How does that make me better? How does it make me well off? And so this is why I keep saying to us as Guyanese, we have got to revisit the way we think. And we have got to craft solutions that will see Guyanese winning. But this whole debate about criteria and thing, I was here, fan, two scholarships right away. Jaden
Easy.
and the young lady. Matter done because guess why? We got other things to dedicate our energy to.
Guyana
Energy
wins.
is energy is energy, right? We got to figure out why people feel comfortable running in our country and putting up bombs that are causing death and destruction. We got to figure out how do we handle this migration crisis because it is going to intensify. How do we figure
Yes.
out what our role as a nation is in terms of the maintenance of our region as a zone of peace? I see Irfan Ali now talking about professionalizing the public service. When you
Yes.
disbanded the school that David Granger
That's right.
did. You cuss Forbes Burnham about rice flour, and now here you are championing rice flour. You cuss David Granger about planting
We're
chips.
planting
Here
chips.
you are opening planting chip factories, and they're able to get away with this nonsense because we as a people are distracted. We have stopped. I don't know if we have ever, but we must now begin to look on matter of merit. It don't matter who's saying it. Does it make sense for our nation? Does it make sense for our people? Agreeing with a man saying can kill you? Agreeing with Nigel will not kill you if he has a good idea that could be implemented. And so, this win lose paradigm that we've been forced to operate in, we've got to realize that it got to change if we're going to inhabit this new Guyana great and free. So, when Irfan goes up there to talk about public service improvement, the Bertrand Collins School was intended to be a finishing
Exactly.
institution. You disband it simply because somebody else do it.
Oh boy.
And that level of pettiness is what will continue to cost our nation. I'm currently traveling and you look around and you ask yourself, okay, so why can't we have clean drains? Why our roads can't be clean? You got a million of us in there. You go to little
Right.
Barbados. Why is it? What is it about us that it seems as though it gotta be broken down? Look, the Indian firm that the government retained built a very, very good highway at the back of Ogle. I'm driving down there the other day, mounds of dirt this high piled up on the side of the road.
Trucks ride
What
and dump it.
is it about our mindset that we have to change? I do not understand, Nigel, but what I will dedicate my energy to It's the speaking. And oh God, if we can enlighten 100,000 points of light, 100,000 Guyanese who will rise up and change the nation, then I could retire because I want to retire to my farm.
Right.
You understand? But
Yeah,
we got to bring people up. It's come up higher time. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? We have everything it takes, but we got to now renew our minds. We have to now understand that if we're going to operate first world, we got to think first world,
That's right.
right? And this is why I love Lee Kuan Yew. He took Singapore. You might not agree with all of his methods, but hey, his
Right.
country today is one of the
Yeah,
most successful in the ASEAN states.
yeah,
They're a model
yeah.
for a number of things. And he gained independence at the same time we did. And look at Singapore now and look at Guyana. And Singapore does not have a single natural
Natural
resource.
resource. Yeah.
But look at where they are. And we must ask ourselves, why is that? And I hear people say, the US will never allow us to nonsense. A nation will rise as high as the mind of its people.
People. That's good. Yeah.
And so we've got to, our Rasta brothers they say we meditation gotta be high,
Yeah, yeah, right.
right?
Yeah, Eurasian gotta be high, man.
I'm not talking about altered. I'm talking about the
Right.
deliberate cultivation of a new way of thinking. And when that new way of thinking comes upon us, Nigel, we're going to see the change in our nation. The nation will have no choice but to change. When we change, our surroundings have to change. The surroundings respond to the frequency that we as humans put out. And if we vibrate low, the environment gonna be low. It can always be dirty. If we vibrate high, the environment must conform.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, we talking politics, but we're not talking politics. So we've got to understand, you know, how we got to change our posture as a nation. And so
yeah.
that is where
I
my
agree.
focus has been. um we've got to do the work. We've got to understand that it does not have to be the way it has always been. We have to understand that there's work to do, and we got to be able to put our shoulders to the wheel and just get it done, yo. We got things to do. We got work to do, bro.
We do. We are working. Again, I must say that I'm grateful for every opportunity that I have to sit with you. And I know that the people are also. I love the fact that we are prepared to work in the interest of our nation. I mean, it doesn't matter.
And here, Nigel, I must interrupt and say this. They're waiting
They
for
are
me, you fall out, you know. But what they don't know is that we use disagree on the phone. We have our disagreements. We sit down, we talk, we yeah, Nigel.
yeah,
Yeah, but
yes,
hold on, wait, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, they they wait and then say, see, I'm also going to release something and somebody release something. What I release you tonight is the ability to prosper, represent well, and I just can't wait to see what it'll be like if you're standing um in certain positions in life. And for the Ghana movement, continuing to do what we do, which is to blaze trails, pioneer, and to not see yourselves as little, but big enough to make a difference. So do well, my sister, and it is well. Viewers, thank you so much. Do well. Thank you so much, viewers, for spending this time with us tonight. Um, you've spoken to here with our leader for Ghana movement, graced with the ability to handle many things. So if there's anyone who's going to say, well, listen, they launch an attack against Guyana or they do whatever it is, you have somebody before you who can deal with crises and smile thereafter. That's what you need. All right. So do well.
Be well.
You'll do until you meet
All
again.
right.
Bye bye.
Bye.